Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Jordanian loyalists sweep the election. Baghdad's Christians targeted again, 5 dead. And Maliki to declare an Iraqi state in Thursday's parliamentary session. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now.
أفرزته أرقام صناديق الاقتراع في الانتخابات التشريعية المبكرة في الأردن لم يكن مغايرا للتوقعات.
As anticipated, amidst the Islamist boycott, candidates loyal to the Jordanian Authority secured a landslide victory in the legislative elections, as confirmed by initial results. Voter turnout was estimated at 53%. The new Council of Representatives will include 13 women, including 12 elected within the framework of the women's quota system, and 1 to represent the district of the Jordanian capital, Amman. Voting yesterday witnessed confrontations among rival voters across various Jordanian cities, killing 1 and injuring 10 others. Joining us by phone is our correspondent in Amman, Salwa Sawaka. Salwa, in light of the election results, what does the picture of the new 16th Parliament look like?
نعم سحر قبل قليل أعلنت وزارة الداخلية النتائج النهائية لانتخابات مجلس النواب الأردني.
Yes, Sahar. A short while ago, the Jordanian Interior Ministry announced the official results of the elections for the 16th Council of Representatives. Observers and analysts believe most of the newly elected MPs are focusing on public service issues as opposed to political agendas. In their opinion, the parliament will have a tribal nature. This is also true for women, who are able to penetrate District 3, one of the most difficult electoral districts in Jordan. A woman won a seat outside the quota system, raising the number of female MPs to 13. Generally speaking, the government will not have a problem dealing with the new council because most of the winners have ties with the government. The absence of Islamists allowed some of the pro-government candidates to win. The new council will also have a partisan nature. The National Current Party has secured 20 parliamentary seats. Most of the candidates relied on their tribal ties as opposed to their political affiliation. Observers believe the 16th Parliament will not look much different than previous councils, except in regard to the absence of Islamists.
Salwa Sawaka, thank you for joining us from Amman. Elsewhere in the Arab world, Egypt is gearing up for legislative elections set to begin in 19 days. Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak described the upcoming elections as important for the future of Egypt. During a meeting with his ruling National Democratic Party, Mubarak said the selection of the party's candidates was based on an unprecedented institutionalized mechanism. Mubarak listed his party's achievements, including its efforts to help protect Egypt's unity and nationalism against what he referred to as attempts to stir division between Muslims and Copts.
Some with limited income are continuing to suffer due to rising prices and cost of living. Some are worried about the future of their families. They have high hopes and ambitions for themselves and their children.
The upcoming elections may witness a repeat of the incidents seen in the 2005 elections. In the 2005 elections, 17 people were killed over electoral disputes after more than 800 candidates from the ruling National Party were nominated to compete over the 508 People's Assembly seats. The National Party described the move as an electoral tactic.
قتل 3 أشخاص وجرح أكثر من 30 آخرين صباح اليوم في هجمات استهدفت مناطق مختلفة من بغداد.
3 people were killed and over 30 were wounded this morning in attacks that targeted various areas of Baghdad with Christian majorities. Explosive devices were used in the bombings that took place in the neighborhoods of Ghabir, Karada, Kamsura, and Dura. Police sources said 2 missiles fell in Dura and damaged the houses in the area. Another explosive device was detonated near a church in Kamsura.
6 مناطق على الأقل تسكنها أغلبية مسيحية في العاصمة العراقية بغداد.
At least 6 neighborhoods with Christian majorities in Baghdad were hit by a string of blasts early this morning. Most of these bombings were carried out with explosive devices in neighborhoods like Ghabir, Karada, Kumsara, and Dura. Police sources said 2 missiles also fell in Dura in southern Baghdad.
I was standing right here. The explosion happened at 7 o'clock. A white car ignited and caught on fire. I called the police 3 times, but they did not respond. After the fire was put out, the police arrived.
What is this? The aim is to stir up chaos among the people. All these young men are being killed. Why? What did we do to deserve this?
The bombings left a number of people dead and injured and caused confusion among people. The attacks also caused massive damage to the houses near the bombing sites. These attacks highlight the threats Christian minorities in Iraq have been facing since the attack on worshippers at Our Lady of Salvation Church in Baghdad. The attack led to the death of 58 people. Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for the attack and vowed more violence against Christians.
وكانت السلطات العراقية قد شددت إجراءاتها الأمنية حول الكنائس.
Iraqi authorities have tightened security measures around the churches and some other targeted areas, but they say it is difficult to protect the whole society from being attacked.
قال نور المالكي رئيس الوزراء العراقي المنتهية رئاسته إن جلسة البرلمان التي ستنعقد غدا.
Incumbent Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki said Thursday's parliamentary session will put an end to what he described as chaos. In a press conference, al-Maliki criticized those he described as partners who exploit the state to hit the state without naming them.
The next parliamentary session will mark the founding of the state of Iraq and the latest attempt to get rid of the chaos that some want to ignite in the country. The following is how incumbent Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki described the measures to be implemented in Parliament.
Constitutional, legal, and the fulfillment of our obligations.
Al-Maliki's statements included undoubtedly dangerous accusations. Among them, an attack on government partners and an accusation that some of those partners are exploiting the state to hit the state. He also accused them of duplicity, in addition to charging them with wanting to be part of the government while being involved in terrorism and being part of the opposition. He stressed that the session would undermine the ongoing plot launched months before the elections. Al-Maliki did not name any of the partners or conspirators. However, his statements came at a very complex period and amidst meetings held by the Iraqi political parties described as critical. In the next few hours, they will hold an additional negotiation session during which the Iraqi slate, whose leaders Iyad Alawi and Tariq al-Hashimi were absent during yesterday's session, faces 3 choices explained by Ibrahim al-Jafari.
The entire Iraqi slate or some parts of that slate could participate, or God forbid it, boycott the session. In any case, the leadership of the parliament will depend on the representation of the Iraqi slate. What matters is that all Iraqi sects and communities are represented in the next government.
This is the reason why it seems the initiative from the president of the Kurdistan region of Iraq, Masoud al-Barzani, has an unclear ending. Some are hoping this initiative will get Iraq out of the political stalemate that has been going on for 8 months.
Joining us from Baghdad is writer and political analyst Dr. Ahmed al-Abyad. Dr. Ahmed, what does incumbent Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki mean when he says the next parliamentary session will put an end to chaos?
يعني هو مساء الخير سيدي الحقيقة واضح المعنى أنه هنالك شكوك.
Good evening, sir. In reality, his implications are clear in that doubts and distrust exist between the political parties. which has led to these accusations of plots and of using terrorism to cause the failure of the political process in Iraq. Today, it is clear that those accusations are directed against a specific section of the Iraqi slate, and it's the reason Iraq's political process is impeded. This issue has reached its peak. Today, this issue does not require statements. There have been sessions described as critical regardless of whether or not they were convened, and when held, it's unclear whether they were fruitful. Statements issued by all parties, as not a single party has seemed at ease with the process the past 8 months, indicate that we have reached a clear separation line. I believe that Mr. al-Maliki clearly means that this is a fateful and historic phase in terms of the Iraqi political scene as a whole, and not just the formation of the government.
طيب من يعني عندما يتكلم عندما هاجم وجه سهامه من سماهم ب
Who was he talking about when he attacked some partners? Who was he referring to?
يعني هم الحقيقة واضح جدا إنه الشركاء.
It is clear that there are two types of partners, those who are part of the National Alliance and those who are not. All of them are partners in the political process. There are partners who are allies and then some who are part of the opposition. As a whole, it seems that Mr. al-Maliki sensed the pressure placed on an important faction, the Alliance of Kurdistan. Some Iraqi political parties, specifically the Iraqi slate backed by Arab states, mainly Saudi Arabia, which is influencing the Americans, are pressuring the Kurds to prevent them from clearly announcing their position on the National Alliance candidate. This is the true root of the crisis. Today, this issue is mainly centred around the position of Mr. Masoud al-Barzani specifically, and the Kurdistan Alliance in general. For this reason, we are unable to proceed with parliamentary sessions, and the Kurds said yesterday they won't clearly announce their position unless an agreement on the top 3 leadership positions is reached. They did not indicate whether they will participate in the upcoming parliamentary session.
Well, the London-based Amnesty International has called for a criminal investigation into former U.S. President George W. Bush's admission of torture. Now, the rights groups have called comes after Bush's confirmation in a recently published memoir that he authorized the use of torture. In his memoir, Bush says torture was against detainees held in secret U.S. custody. Exactly 6 days after the September 11 attacks, former President Bush authorized the CIA to set up secret detention facilities outside the U.S. Amnesty says multiple human rights violations were committed against detainees held in the CIA's secret program under the name of War on Terror. It says that those who authorized and carried out abuses have not been brought to justice.
Former U.S. President George W. Bush signing autographs on copies of his memoir, Decision Points in Dallas. In the book, Bush has again linked the Iraq and Afghanistan wars to the 9/11 attacks.
9/11 changed the course of history and led to the hardest decision any president can make, deploying American troops into combat.
As for Iraq, Bush built his case for going to war in the country on Saddam Hussein having links to al-Qaeda and possessing WMDs, both of which proved to be lies. The U.S. has admitted the former Iraqi dictator had no links to al-Qaeda, nor did the U.S. find any WMDs in Iraq.
George W. Bush is as wrong now as he was when he was president. He should be brought up on charges and held accountable for his actions.
Official figures show over 1 million civilians have been killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. The wars also involved some scandals, including the torture of prisoners in Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq and Bagram base in Afghanistan, as well as in Guantanamo. Reports say the photos of inmate torture shows only a small extent of the abuse.
President of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, requested an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council to discuss the continuation of Israeli settlement construction, which creates a major obstacle for the resumption of peace talks. On Monday, Israel announced a plan to build 1,300 new residential units in regions that it has occupied since 1967.
أكد عدد من الوزراء اللبنانيين أن لا تصويت على ملف شهود.
A number of Lebanese ministers said that they won't vote on the false witness issue in today's meeting at the request of the president of Lebanon. However, Minister Mohammed Jawad Khalifa, a minister for the March 8 alliance, said that if the false witness issue was not tackled today, then there would not be any discussion of any item on the Ministers' Council's agenda. Before the meeting started, the president had a face-off with the Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri.
It appears the most prominent issue in the current crisis in Lebanon is the false witness case in the assassination of Rafiq al-Hariri. But the essence of this crisis is the International Tribunal. Hezbollah wants to have the tribunal suspended, and Saad al-Hariri insists on keeping it. The false witness issue will be presented at the Ministers' Council's meeting as a test of how willing the political parties are to transform this controversial issue into a reason to suspend the government's work. The March 14th alliance, headed by Saad al-Hariri, has repeatedly refused to hold a vote on the false witness issue, so much so that Hariri told the relevant people he would storm out of the meeting if the March 8 alliance insists on voting.
The Ministers' Council approved discussion of this issue and can make a decision either by voting or by transferring the case to the judiciary. This is not right or effective because there's no reason to transfer the case to the judiciary.
With these polarized positions and risks, President Michel Suleiman's speech several hours before he started the meeting focused on trying to find ways out of the crisis. So will the March 8 alliance agree on not voting at the Ministers' Council?
We will insist until the end that if there is no possibility a consensus can be reached, then there should be a vote. If we vote on what to do, it will be fair to all sides. Some people lose and others win. Those who lose will have already performed their duty. Those who win will achieve what they wanted out of this discussion. This discussion must lead to a decision.
If the meeting is postponed with no vote on the false witness issue, it will be evidence of an existing crisis, said some analysts.
Everyone agrees that there's a crisis in this country. We believe the crisis won't have a solution, and tomorrow there will be one of three scenarios, and they all reach a dead end. The first scenario, the meeting will be postponed with no vote. This could cause a problem. So in case there is a vote, if one party prevails over the others, this also could lead to a problem. And if the vote is tied, it proves that the country is divided.
It appears that the Lebanese crisis is linked to the result of the Syrian-Saudi discussions. So far, there have not been any tangible results other than their agreement to communicate. The most obvious question right now is, will Lebanon head into an open government crisis? Nada Abdul Samar, BBC, Beirut.
Obama's plan to build 1,300 new housing units in East Jerusalem has sparked another diplomatic spat with Washington. That has put Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in the hot seat during his trip to America. Our reporter Jordana Miller joins us in the studio with the details. Jordana.
Thanks, Laura. Prime Minister Netanyahu went to the U.S. hoping to make progress in getting the stalled direct peace talks back on track, but instead he's had to focus on averting another major diplomatic crisis with the Obama administration over this new building project in East Jerusalem. It doesn't seem to be what Netanyahu expected to deal with on this trip. He's had to face a slew of reprimands from U.S. officials, with the State Department calling the East Jerusalem building plans deeply disappointing and counterproductive. Even U.S. President Barack Obama voiced criticism over the building project during his overseas visit to Indonesia, saying that kind of activity is, quote, never helpful when it comes to peace negotiations, adding that it undermines trust between the parties. Today, President Obama addressed the issue again, promising the U.S. would remain steadfast in its pursuit of a two-state solution despite the obstacles. Let's take a listen to what he said.
In the Middle East, we have faced false starts and setbacks, but we've been persistent in our pursuit of peace. Israelis and Palestinians restarted direct talks, but enormous obstacles remain. There should be no illusion that peace and security will come easy. But let there be no doubt, America will spare no effort in working for the outcome that is just and that is in the interests of all the parties involved. Two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. That is our goal.
Prime Minister Netanyahu responded today to U.S. criticism of the East Jerusalem building project. In an official statement from his office, Netanyahu repeated Israel's longtime official position that Jerusalem is the capital of the State of Israel and not, he emphasized, a, quote, settlement. He insisted that Israeli building has never been restricted in the city. This was no doubt meant to remind Washington that Israel, which captured East Jerusalem in 1967 and annexed it in 1980, sees a legal difference between the West Bank and Jerusalem. The U.S. and the international community have never recognized Israel's annexation of Jerusalem. And in an attempt to downplay the controversy, Netanyahu said in an interview with Fox News that the whole issue has been, quote, overblown, and that the new housing units will not affect borders of a peace map. The real consequences of this latest diplomatic fight may not become clear until tomorrow when Netanyahu meets Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Here in Israel, the issue elicited strong responses from two former Israeli and Palestinian officials. Let's take a listen.
Well, you know, it would be a front-page story whether he was here or whether he was there. So that I don't see that the timing issue is so critical. What is critical is that people have to understand that when Prime Minister Netanyahu offered a settlement freeze for 10 months, he never included Jerusalem.
The Jewish neighborhoods in East Jerusalem are exactly like the Jewish settlements in the occupied territories in the West Bank. Now, within the frame of a political settlement, the conflict, we can discuss the fate and the future of these neighborhoods. Maybe they could be included in the swap agreement.
The Rafah border crossing will be officially closed over Eid al-Adha holiday, effective November 15th to the 20th. In addition, the border crossing will regularly close on Fridays, Saturdays, and during official holidays, effective December 26th.
In another development, a new humanitarian aid convoy, including 35 trucks of relief supplies pledged by the UAE Red Crescent, has crossed the Egyptian Auja land passage to the Gaza Strip.
Egypt
has allowed the United Arab Emirates aid convoy into the Gaza Strip via the commercial Auja and Rafah border crossings. The Egyptian Red Crescent facilitated the entry of food and medical aid to our Palestinian brothers in the Gaza Strip. The convoy included 35 trucks of food and medical supplies.
The convoy is carrying 500 tons of food supplies, including 400 tons of flour, 50 tons of rice, and 50 tons of sugar. This is one of a series of aid convoys the UAE Red Crescent and the government pledged.
The Egyptian Red Crescent facilitated the mission and provided assistance to our brothers at the UAE Red Crescent. As you can see, the convoy just crossed the Israeli-Nitzana border crossing. The convoy was allowed entry, and it's on its way to the Gaza Strip.
Egypt welcomes the efforts of any country pledging humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. The Egyptian Red Crescent has exerted a tremendous amount of effort to facilitate the mission of donor countries. It also continues to oversee aid operations and the flow of supplies crossing its territories en route to Gaza via the Rafah and Auja border crossings.
I would like to express gratitude to the people and President of the Republic of Egypt. I would also like to thank everyone offering to help us, particularly the Egyptian leadership. May God reward them for their good deed. They made it easy for us. The UNRWA did everything in its power to help us. Thank God the efforts were very well coordinated.
The ongoing efforts are continuing to help the Palestinian people and ease their plight on all political and humanitarian levels. Egypt will continue to supply the Gaza Strip with food and medical aid to help ease the suffering of the nearly 1.5 million Palestinians living under the Israeli siege in the Gaza Strip. From the international border separating the Egyptian Auja and the Israeli Nitzana border crossings, Ashraf Swalem, Nile News Channel.
أعلن القضاء البلجيكي 9 أشخاص بينهم 8 أميرات من الإمارات.
Belgium has begun the trial of 9 people, including 8 princesses from the United Arab Emirates, for human trafficking and the exploitation of 23 servants in a hotel in the capital of Brussels. The Brussels public prosecutor issued an arrest warrant for the women, including the widow of the late prince, Mohammed bin Khalid Al Nahyan.
محمد بن خالد آل نهيان.
فندق كونراد أحد أفخم فنادق بروكسل.
The Conrad Hotel is one of the most luxurious hotels in Brussels. An entire floor consisting of 53 rooms and the presidential suite were reserved for the widowed Emirati princess and her 7 female companions at the cost of 4,500 euros per night. For months, this was a hiding place for what was described as the enslavement of 23 female servants from various countries, working without legal documents. The Belgian police raided the hotel after a Moroccan servant miraculously escaped the princess's bodyguards and informed the police. Through the Marasi program, the Moroccan girl who escaped her enslavement called me. I learned of the case and advised her to reach out to Arab parliamentarians. In turn, they presented her case to the police. Belgium's public prosecutor ended the investigation that began in the summer of 2008 and requested the transfer of the case to the criminal court. The defendants managed to leave Belgium after submitting their testimony.
محكمة الجناح تصدر قرارها قرار اتهامي ظني بالارتكابات.
The criminal court issues a verdict on the crimes that were committed and then sends it to all countries through Interpol.
بهن ومن ثم ترسل هذه إلى كافة دول العالم عبر الانتربول.
What the service crew was subjected to here night and day was sufficient for the public prosecutor to charge the princesses with detention, exploitation, inhuman and degrading treatment, and human trafficking. In addition, they are charged with using illegal immigrant labor without paying the salary of the 23 servants, estimated at 124,000 euros. We were closely monitoring them. They had security personnel working with them, preventing the servants from communicating with anyone inside or outside the hotel and preventing them from leaving the hotel for any reason. At times, they were also treated inhumanely. For example, if the princess was reading a magazine, one of her servants would sit next to her holding a hot coffee on her palm and would sit in that position for hours. After the princesses escaped, the veil of secrecy was removed as well, and a new chapter was added in the file of human rights organizations. The Belgian decision did not charge the hotel administration despite testimony by the Moroccan servant indicating the administration was aware of the crime. The director of the hotel denied the allegation. However, the testimony was sufficient to arouse suspicion that the administration disguised the violations. Karim Baksha, Al-Alam, Brussels.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible from support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news. Read our blog. Get transcripts of past shows and more at linktv.org/mosaic.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs, programs which connect you to the world.